Cool. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Brenda Chen to Building New Realities. Apologies for my appearance as sort of Casper the Ghost, but there's some kind of weird AR filter. It infected my computer that I can't turn off, and I've just had to change location. I don't have my normal studio lights. So anyway, Brenda, it seems appropriate that I join you as a sort of ghost like character, given the field you work in. You're really interested to find out more. Obviously, you're an animator and you've worked as a broadcast director. Previously worked at Wave, but yeah, lovely to meet you. Thanks for joining me. I know it's late your time, but yeah, welcome to Building New Realities.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So yeah, Brenda, why don't you give me a little bit of background? Tell me how you started in this field, what you've been working on, and what you're up to at the moment, and looking forward to next.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started off as a fine artist. I was, just drawing, painting, doing stuff like that. And then in high school, I discovered animation. And so I went to college to study animation. But in my first year there, I accidentally wandered into a VR lab and tried VR for the first time. And after that, my world was, blown apart and I just got hooked. And, because as an artist, my biggest goal was always to, transport people to other universes. And once I found VR, AR, like XR technology, I was like, holy shit, this is like a real thing. I can make this happen. And so I got hooked. I went onto YouTube and just learned as much as I could about VR, AR, learned the whole pipeline from 3D modeling to rigging all the way to, coding. And eventually just went on to kind of create my own projects, made a ton of friends in the field. And together, we created a lot of projects together. And so I was an indie dev for a while, just kind of building, VR games and then also projection mapping installations, just anything I could do to combine art and tech to just make really compelling experiences. And then later on, I, bumped into Adam Arrigo, who is the CEO of Wave, at a party one day on accident. I'm always just bumping into people on accident, and that's kind of how things happen. But yeah, I bumped into him at a party and he asked me if I wanted to work at Wave. And at that time I was graduating college. So it was kind of like, the stars aligned and it was just perfect timing. So I went there and I worked for Wave, where I was a director for the content side of things and also the broadcast side of things. And I got to direct, Justin Bieber's concert, John Legend's concert, Jaws concert, and work on a bunch of other concerts, and was working in virtual concerts for about 3 years. And then recently I actually resigned to be a freelance creative, because it was always my dream to just, create my own experiences. And so I'm doing that now.
Hey, exciting. And interestingly, I think our backgrounds are probably quite similar in a lot of ways, because I started as an animator. Oh, what did you start with animating on? What kind of packages did you learn with?
I kind of did half and half. I was doing, 2D stuff in Photoshop, which I know people are like, you shouldn't animate in Photoshop, but I do. And then also, After Effects, doing like motion graphics and like Cinema 4D and Maya.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I started as an animator and worked on promos and stuff, and then wanted to work in a field where you really got to move people, right? So it's like, okay, well, where can I put this art? Where's the biggest canvas I can put this art on that's going to have the biggest impact on people? So I ended up doing content for shows, and then became a show director and a tour director, trying to put the biggest LED screens into gigs that I could. And I was Fatboy Slim show director for 12 years. And, we got concert sizes up to like 350,000 people. That was on a Brazilian beach. But then again, similar kind of impact when you go into VR and immersive, and sort of the impact of like, okay, for someone who likes pictures and feelings and creating a new sensation, it is just the best medium. So when I saw in your profile you'd been a show director, I thought, oh, fantastic, kind of lots we can chat about it in common there. Okay, so I mean, in terms of the projects that you're excited about and looking forward to, given that you've really sort of accelerated, right, to go from graduate into an outfit like the Wave that was doing very cutting edge kind of music creation. You're broadcast director there. What are you excited about over the next couple of years in terms of your art? And obviously, on the one hand, you've got to get gigs to pay the rent, but obviously you'll have a vision for like where you want to take it, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so I guess one of the main reasons for me leaving was, as you know, I thought virtual concerts was super cool, but something I kind of missed was the freedom to kind of just experiment and explore any kind of medium and technology. So what I'm excited for the next few years is honestly just to experiment again, just to meet as many cool people as possible, make new friends, just kind of bounce around, take new pieces of tech and just hack things together and see what I can build. I don't know if there's really one particular thing I'm super, super excited about. I'm more just kind of excited to, be curious and like learn again.
Cool. And as much as you can reveal anything about the kind of workflow you developed when you were doing virtual concerts, and I presume a lot of that came from sort of hacking things together. Obviously you're putting things together with mocap suits and translating that into live broadcasts. How involved were you in that sort of workflow evolution, and what did the early steps look like, and what were the lessons learned that allowed you to refine it into, I'm sure in the early days, like any kind of big project, it's like, shit, is this thing going to fall over?
Oh, 100%.
How much sellotape have we got on this thing? Can someone chew some more gum, stick it in the back? That's how any big ambitious project or installation starts.
Sure.
Becomes my dog. You might have Chewbacca sticking his head in.
Oh my God, hi Chewbacca. Oh my God, so cute.
Yeah, go on, out of the way. So yeah, as much as you can, it'd be interesting to hear about, like, from the sort of prototypey days, lessons you learned and how you allow that to sort of mature with the workflow.
Yeah, for sure. So I was employee like number 20. So I came on really, really early on. And so since I came on so early on, I got to see basically the evolution of everything, because my first day was their first time creating a streamed virtual live mocap concert. And since then, like, we've grown a lot. And, with any startup, there's going to be lots of experimentation, because you can't create like an awesome project without, all of the nitty gritty of like hacking things around. And I guess like what I learned is, in order to, create something awesome, you kind of have to start scrappy and not be afraid to fail. Just, throw as much resources as you can to kind of just figure things out and play around and not be scared if something blows up. And definitely like early on in our concerts, we've had a lot of like, oh shit, this thing's going to explode moments. And like, we've had moments where, our like lead software engineer had to last minute hack together our own Wi-Fi system because the Wi-Fi like broke down, or, like mocap exploded in the middle of a concert. And so we had to think on our feet and, like turn the camera around to look at something cool in the environment and make it look like an intentional thing. Yeah. And so what it taught me as, an artist and a director and just like a creative in general is how to come up with creative and hacky solutions on the fly and to like keep my calm, because I'm sure, from working in like live concerts and events, you can't lose your shit. You always have to keep like a level head and just learn to like regulate your emotions, regulate your anxiety. You can't freak out. You just have to get your mind in that like calm state so that it can come up with like a creative solution. And so if anything, I would say I learned more about how to manage, I guess, my emotions and stress levels, and like learn to think on my feet more than anything, like more than any technological or academic, whatever thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really no, that makes so much sense. Yeah. I mean, that's exact. And that's kind of, I think, part of the attraction of live events and putting something on that hasn't been done before. Every weekend you're sort of stepping slightly into the unknown. Yeah. And things do break. I mean,
everything's always breaking. Something's always breaking. Yeah.
Something's always breaking. And yeah, you are on the edge of the sort of adrenaline is flying through you. There's been a couple of times where I've had hard drives fail on stage, and you've got 80,000 people in front of you. It's like, okay, great, I'm just going to go up there and turn it all off and on again. And in worst case scenarios where you can see something's broken, like dumping the whole live set from the external drive, just dumping it on the desktop, pulling that back into the player and going, right, well, we're just running it off the desktop now. I hope that works. I mean, when we worked, we had a very small team. We had a team of of 5. We'd fly in with like 4 Pelly cases into these massive shows, as other people would turn up with trucks and like 40 people. But yeah, that learning how to regulate yourself and work under pressure is an unforgettable memory from those days. Very exciting. Okay, well, let's move on to the M word. What does metaverse mean to you?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of funny because I feel like the metaverse has been around, like VR, AR, XR technology has been here for years. There've been people working in it, but I feel like people are just getting really hyped about it now on this like grand scale because, Facebook released that trailer and now celebrities are just, freaking out about NFTs. But to me, the metaverse has always just kind of been, as an artist, a tool for just exploring things that you can't in real life. And so for me, it's kind of just like a cool playground for experimenting, creating anything you want, really. And so for me, it's really exciting. And I think of it more as like a playground versus, versus a marketing tool that everyone else almost seems like to be using it for, because like all these companies are excited about the metaverse because it's like a buzzword right now, and they're like, oh my god, let me pack it full of my advertisements and all that other stuff, which is like fine. I think that's cool, but I think that there's so much more that can be done in the metaverse outside of just creating a platform where people can play games and like interact. I feel like there's so many use cases to create compelling art installations, or there's a bunch of different use cases for, the medical industry potentially, or just like so many things. So yeah, I'm just really excited about it.
Okay, yeah, I think it's an interesting point. It's receiving a lot of hype at the moment, and like anything that gets a whole lot of hype and a lot of traction, there's just very crass conversations about the quickest way to monetize it or convert it into another part of the capitalist pillar. So perhaps if we shift the sentiment of the question but keep it in the same area, perhaps with a more artistic or creative slant, is what does building a new reality mean to you in the context of digital experience?
What do you mean by?
Well, so building a new reality is, it's essentially people giving people an experience that is difficult to achieve in real life, or impossible to achieve in real life. So if I give you an example, within the context of a music experience I did, or I participated in, and you'll have heard of this platform called Sansar. Mm-hmm. And they did an event based on a part of a festival here called Glastonbury, which is quite a famous festival, and it's sort of grown over the years, and it has this area called Shangri-La. Mm-hmm. And Shangri-La was where all the crazy shit happened, but it would normally happen at like between sort of 1 and 5 a.m. was like peak time in Shangri-La, where it was going really crazy, and normally you would have had like 2 days of leading up to that kind of peak experience. But when they rebuilt Sansar, Shangri-La in Sansar, we were able just to jump in with our headsets, and all of a sudden I was there on the dance floor, because I could change my avatar. I was like, I was a shark, my wife was a banana, and we were chatting to people from Texas and chatting to people from Miami and Australia, and having that really kind of crazy dance floor Soco Loco kind of moment. Yeah. But normally it would take you hours to sort of get up to the sort of peak craziness, and then would probably take you weeks to recover from. But because we were just able to jump in and out of VR or digital experience, or we were building this new reality, it allowed us to sort of access this, what normally would be a sort of peak experience very easily, very quickly, right? It was like, okay, do you want to go to the craziness at 3 a.m. at Shangri-La? Bang, headset on. Wow, I'm talking to people from around the world. I'm dressed as a shark, which I would never do in real life. To access all these kind of states very quickly. And then I could like take it off and go cook dinner for my daughter, and then come back and pop it back on and go, I'm just going to go and chat with Bruce from Australia for a bit. So the point there that I'm getting to is, that was building a new reality.
Got you.
Yeah.
Like, how do I guess, see it? Like, how would I want to like build a new reality?
Yeah. And so we don't have to talk about Metaverse, because Metaverse is very loaded at the moment with kind of marketing and like land grab and stuff. Whereas the bigger picture is okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I guess for me as an artist, another thing that's also really important to me is mental health, and also just in general, creating happiness, because I don't know, I guess I feel like the world right now, especially, is kind of sad. And so as an artist, I'm always interested in how do I create a experience that is not only compelling, but, spark some joy. And so I would like to create, experience that would let people detox and kind of like rejuvenate and reset from the outside world. So whether that be, popping them into a land full of really insane, psychedelic, crazy creatures that just kind of make them giggle, or, transport them to just a super, Zen virtual environment, maybe set in some alternate universe that has insane gravity or something that wouldn't exist in real life, so they can kind of shut themselves off from reality and rest and reset, is kind of stuff that has always really been interesting to me. And, I've built a series of projection mapped installations that are rooted in reality still, because it's a physical installation, kind of exploring those ideas. But now that I have more free time, I kind of want to take that same concept of like, how do I use this new piece of technology that's super, super immersive, and use that as a way to create compelling experiences where people can, kind of escape the stressors of their everyday life and be, more compelled to work on their mental health and like work on, stuff related to that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying with that. I often wonder whether more digital is the answer to mental health. And interesting to hear your view that the world's quite sad at the moment. I think that probably, I hear that quite a lot from, I think, sort of younger generations. And have you seen any great examples of mental health apps or in immersive, or what? I mean, obviously you just described what you'd like to do.
Yeah.
Have you seen any examples?
Yeah, there's a really cool VR app called Trip with, I think, like 2 or 3 Ps. But I know a few people who during the pandemic, it's a VR app actually that, has a bunch of like breathing simulation, and like just trippy experiences where you can kind of just lay down with your headset and kind of just like immerse yourself in these worlds and go through like meditations and stuff. And I have a few friends who did that throughout the pandemic, and they said that really helped them to cope with quarantine and other stuff like that. Because especially when you're like trapped in your house, can't really go anywhere, can't really do anything. So VR is a good tool to kind of travel or experience things outside of your house. Yeah, that's a really cool experience.
I tried that Trip app in the when it first came out, and I tried it again recently, and it felt a little bit like it felt like a little bit like a sort of a playground. I definitely think there's scope for kind of a bit more scientifically based breathing apps. I think there could be some really interesting executions there. I think there's a lot of scope, because breathing's such a simple thing to do. Because it was quite psychedelic, wasn't it? And I mean, I've done a fair bit of meditation, so that's how I find it a bit difficult doing those sort of the meditation or mental health apps, because it's like, oh look, more stuff, more candy, more kind of
that's interesting,
more kind of input. And it's like that's
what
I need is input. It's like, okay, it stops me thinking, but it's actually helping me kind of focus or be nourishing.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, because for me it's kind of the opposite. Anytime I try to just meditate, I forget that I'm meditating and my mind starts wandering, or I get bored and I fall asleep. And so I feel like those apps actually kind of keep me focused. And I always like have problems like regulating my breath. So I feel like a visualizer helps to kind of sync my body up to something. So then I start naturally like breathing the way that I'm supposed to breathe. But maybe it's just like different brains, different people kind of react differently.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly different techniques.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's a world of different techniques out there, even for meditation, even for something as simple as breathing. Excuse me. What have you found to be the greatest technical challenges in your work, either when you were doing installations, when you were at grad school, or, you know, when you're at the Wave, or recently?
Yeah, I think the biggest technical challenge is just like the technology, you know, immersive technology is just not sophisticated enough to the point where it's invisible. Because I think good tech is so good that it's invisible that the person using it doesn't think about it, right? So for example, when doing like Wave concerts, like mocap technology, especially for a live concert, just isn't there yet. So, you know, you're getting weird artifacts with like movement. So you still slightly get this like uncanny valley vibe. And that will kind of take viewers out of the experience sometimes. Same thing with like shading and rendering. Like we're just not there yet where human avatars look like super realistic. So you still get this kind of creepy, uncanny valley thing. Same thing with like VR headsets, you know, they're still too heavy. So I personally get headaches wearing the headset. And so I'm never 100% fully immersed. And so I'm still thinking of that extra layer of technology. So I think until the technology gets so good that you're not even thinking about it and you're fully immersed in the world, you know, we're still going to have some kind of issues.
Yeah, I think that's valid feedback. You know, early adopters and people that work in the field can be like, yeah, it's all great. And then, you put it on someone and they're like, no, it's quite heavy. And you're like, no, shush, ignore that thing that it says it's heavy and uncomfortable.
I've seen someone throw up in our VR lab at like USC. Right. Someone straight just yacked from someone's experience.
Yeah, and they're probably like, okay, nothing to see here. Like this.
Yeah,
they're fine. They've eaten something bad.
Yeah. I was like, that's intense.
Yeah, nasty. Can you tell me about a project that changed your approach to your field?
Yeah, so I built a VR, or not, actually wasn't VR. It was just a projection mapped installation called Opal back in college. Actually, let me describe it so you get like a full understanding of what it was. But I guess imagine just a 16 by 16 foot circular white mat on the ground with, you know, 4 pillows in the center where 4 people could lay down on the mat together, almost like in a flower formation. And then above them, I had a large mirror hanging so that the people laying on the ground could see themselves in the mirror. And then around them was like a whole garden of like crystals and geodes and like LEDs in this like dark room to kind of make it like a Zen relaxing vibe. And then I had a projector hanging from the ceiling that was projecting down on top of the people laying on the ground. And it was projecting, you know, really cool abstract, just soothing animations, almost like in like a pool kind of like liquid fashion. And the idea was that they were in an immersive light bath. And I also had a Kinect sensor hanging from the ceiling to sense kind of like the movements of the people laying on the ground so that when they were moving, they could actually affect the animations on their bodies. And they also had headphones so that, you know, just pumping in soothing music. And I made this project as kind of an experiment to see if, you know, something as simple as projection mapping and projecting just colorful, beautiful imagery on people could make someone feel relaxed and take them out of reality, transport them to another universe so that they can like detox and reset from, you know, everyday stressors. That was just kind of an experiment. And I didn't actually realize like how much of an impact that would have on people. Like I thought people were just going to go into it and be like, oh, this is cool, whatever, like cool, pretty. But I had people, you know, tearing up. I had people coming up to me and being like, oh my God, this was so transformative, like yada, yada, yada. And it kind of just made me realize like that there are multiple layers of immersion. So I always thought like, oh, you have to completely immerse someone with like VR, right? So they can't see their real world, whatever. And that is the highest form of immersion. And that's how you're going to impact people the most. And actually, in reality, it was this experience where people are still grounded in reality. They are like laying on physical pillows. They're seeing the physical world. And it was only a light, kind of layer of immersion with the projection mapping. And that was so much more compelling and moving to somebody than, a full-on VR experience that had built. And so it kind of made me think about immersion in a different sense. Like, I think it's more about the content and the feeling that you're making someone feel with an experience that kind of takes them out of the real world versus like the actual, technical medium itself.
That's really interesting. So that actually did something for your audience that you weren't expecting.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. That kind of like mix of meditative and entertainment in a way, but without there having to be a kind of really blistering narrative to keep people's attention. Yeah, when you were mentioning the sort of the opal and the flower coming down, I was sort of struck by how that could be quite relaxing. We're working on a music thing at the moment, and as part of the creative is you go in someone's head, the DJ's head, and in their brain, and at points you have like the pineal gland coming down, squirting serotonin on people. I said, okay, we need to change. Pineal gland needs to look a little bit disco bally, but like the mix disco ball and pineal gland could be quite interesting. There was a really good installation by MLF, Marshmallow Laser Fest, called, I think it's called something like The Air All Around Us, where there was like a big tree and you got to see all the sap moving through the ground underneath you into the tree.
Cool.
And then your own blood and oxygen through your body. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. I don't know if it was over in the States, but it's a very good piece. And just that mix between, I think there's a real sweet spot between not like this is a meditation app, and not this is entertainment, just kind of, a relaxing space that just allows you to sort of drop into yourself a little bit and kind of explore.
My goal as like an artist isn't to like hit someone with like, this is a health app and we are going to make you healthy. Because I think when you say that, people are like, oh, healthy. It's like almost like telling them like, oh, eat this dish. It's going to be healthy. You expect it to taste bad. My goal is just like to make something beautiful and compelling and then hit you secretly with that. This is healthy for you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Which I guess all good art does, right? All good art makes you stop and slow down and makes you think a little bit. I think, the way we've evolved, we're just these crazy list machines that just love long lists and like, give me something to do, which is why we're suckers for smartphones, because we just want more information and more dopamine, but it's not necessarily serving us quite well.
Too much dopamine is not good either.
Too much dopamine, not good. Just to touch on something we mentioned earlier, what's your take on NFTs?
I'm going to be completely honest. Good. I'm conflicted because on one hand, because on one hand, I'm so happy that, digital artists are finally being taken seriously and they're getting paid what they're worth. And I have so many like cool friends in the space who are just building the most insane projects. And I think it's awesome. But then on the other hand, some of it is bad for the environment. I mean, like depending on the blockchain you're using. And also, I'm seeing artists getting their work stolen and people are just, assholes are just taking their artwork and minting it without their permission. And that sucks. And it's just totally unregulated. So once someone mints your artwork, I don't know how you're going to get it back. But then there's like the nerd side of me that's like, wow, this blockchain technology is super cool. There's so many potential use cases outside of JPEG. So yeah, I don't know. I'm conflicted.
Yeah, I'm kind of conflicted as well, where, you see, people who are in early and can't draw, just going like, drawing like stick men and going, but I'm in early, so I'm going to mint it. And you're like, yeah, but it's shit. Like, I get that, it might have, long-term programmable value and that's all kind of really exciting, but really, is it actually worth that? But then, you know, I kind of said the same on Bitcoin, so I'm happy to be proved. I've had to be proved stunningly wrong on this particular example.
It's kind of like fine arts too, right? Like there's this, I think someone duct taped a banana to a wall and sold that for like $20,000 or some crazy insane number.
Yeah,
there's always going to be something like that.
Yeah,
but I guess the way I think about it is like, all right, you somehow won. Good job. I don't know how you tricked people into buying your banana or how you tricked people into buying your stick figure, but good job.
Yeah. On the one hand, you do just have to go, well done, because, you know, putting the effort in and actually going for it and getting rewarded like that, you know, fair enough.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you've got, you know, people on the side going, I'm not sure about this. It's like, yeah, well, he just stuck a banana or she just stuck a banana to a lamppost and sold it for that. So they're doing something all right.